Welcome to Academy Dialogues. It starts with us. My name is Sean Finney, and we're about to get into the second in our continuing series of conversations about race, ethnicity, identity, history, and the opportunity in the art of filmmaking. Our theme today is Native Son. Native Son was founded by veteran magazine editor, cultural changemaker, and LGBTQ activist Emil Wilbekin with the intention to create a safe space for Black gay men to celebrate our achievements, build community, and inspire one another. We are so grateful to have Emil moderating today's conversation, which will focus on growing the voice and the visibility of Black gay men in Hollywood and the film industry. Emil has held editor-in-chief positions at Vibe and Giant Magazine, been both managing editor and editor-at-large at Essence, style guru at Complex, and chief content officer for the annual Afropunk Festival. Speaking with Emil are writer, director, producer Lee Daniels and writer Tarell Alvin McCraney, who have agreed to share their stories. Lee directed the film Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire. Precious received 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, and took home 2 Oscars that night for Best Supporting Actress and made history with the Best Adapted Screenplay win, making Jeffrey Fletcher the first ever African-American man to win an Oscar for writing. He also produced Monsters Ball, for which Halle Berry became the first and so far only Black woman to win a Best Actress Oscar. He also created the TV series Empire and Star, both of which he produces and directs. Tarell Alvin McCraney is an Academy Award winner for Best Adapted Screenplay for the film Moonlight, for which he co-wrote based on his play In the Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue. He also wrote High Flying Bird, directed by Steven Soderbergh, which was released on Netflix last year. Thank you all for participating in Academy Dialogues and for sharing your stories. We look forward to your conversation.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here with us today. Our topic is the growing voice and visibility of Black gay men in Hollywood and in the film industry. As Black gay men, we live in triple consciousness. We're Black, we're gay, and we're men. And particularly as we move through the world right now, all of those things come into play at every intersection. Native Son is framed after James Baldwin's Notes of a Native Son, and it's very interesting that within Notes of a Native Son, he criticizes portrayals of Black people in Hollywood and notably talks a lot about Dorothy Dandridge and Carmen Jones. Why is it important that we have this conversation about Black gay men and our identity and our sexuality and our masculinity and amplify our voice and visibility in Hollywood? Lee, let's start with you.
First of all, what was the read on Dorothy Dandridge, may I ask? What was he saying about Dorothy Dandridge?
It was more of how Black people were depicted in Carmen Jones. And so, are we showing full pictures? Are we sexualized? How are we showing Black people? And I think that's something that we all grapple with today.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was so concerned. I was so into the Carmen Jones of it all that I forgot. I forgot the question. One more time. Just sum it up real quick.
Yes. So why is it important for us to have these conversations as Black gay men about our masculinity, our identity, and our sexuality, and amplify our voice and visibility in Hollywood, especially right now?
Because this is where it starts right here. This is all where it starts right here. There is a conception or a misconception of what the African American gay male is. And not everybody looks like or acts like what they perceive us to be.
I mean, it's a hard question, right? It's like
really hard question. I wanted to make sure I'm clear, I'm clear.
Also, I think part of, what I think some of the question is, and Lee, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, is, how do we get to a place where we're talking to each other, right? Like so many of the questions and so many of what we want to talk about is always asking Hollywood to give us something or to make us space for us. And it's like, and it gets harder because we're constantly begging for space to be human. Like, give us room so we can be all the many versions of ourselves. Something that you alluded to many times when we've talked is that, look, there's as many versions of being Black and gay as there are Black and gay people, right? There are many versions of it. And if you just show one version, then you are limiting that people's history and humanity to that just narrow scope. And we shouldn't have to ask to get a little bit more space to show all the variations. We shouldn't have to keep begging for that. And so it's a hard question to ask, because it's like, well, we've been asking for almost 400 years, right? And from theater to music to film to to the internet, we keep getting these sort of narrow channels to be fully human. And I think that's why it's a hard question to answer. And Lee, you've been doing it way longer than I have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Tarell, because it threw me for a little bit loop. Yeah, I mean, it's like peeling an onion. It's like peeling an onion. It's so layered and so complicated, that question, Emil. It is very, very difficult doing what we do. It is very, very difficult having to face your own people. Forget about white people. Forget about Hollywood. But your own people as a Black, gay man, as a masculine, walking, Black, gay man, because people are thrown by it. They don't really see, or they don't want to see. It confuses people. It throws people off. And yeah.
So one of the things that I want to ask both of you is that, within Native Son, we talk about this in Hollywood, we talk about it in corporate America and in media. There's this sense of isolation. We still live in this, we're the only one in the room. It could be at Yale, it could be at Fox or at, Amazon, wherever you're working, Netflix. We're the only ones. And so how do you navigate being the only one and telling your story without fear of being quieted?
I think for me, I can't speak for Tarell, but for me, I grew up in the streets, I grew up with a family of drug dealers. I grew up, unafraid. And I took that unafraidness into my concept of how to break into Hollywood. No one was going to tell me that I was nothing, or that I wasn't going to have anybody tell me that I wasn't worthy of it. And look, it starts with talent first. You have to have talent. There are. I think you can't just fake it. You have to have something that God has given you, that that you can count on at the end of the day. And once you have that, I'm just speaking for me, once you have what you think is this talent, that is your backbone for getting in the room, as Malcolm X says, by any means necessary. So by any means necessary is how I got into the rooms. By any means necessary. I was going to do what I had to do to get into the room, and I was going to do what I had to do to make sure that Monsters Ball got into existence, that Halle Berry won the Academy Award. By any means necessary. And so now it doesn't really, it's not about by any means necessary, it's but I will resort to that if I have to.
Right. But do you find, now that you're in the room, that you're still the only Black gay man in the room who is presenting these stories that are other, that are, the narratives we never hear?
Well, I surround myself now with as many Black gay men as I can, so I'm not the only one in the room when I'm creating these stories. But when I'm pitching these stories, oftentimes that is the case. And it is, it's really interesting, you know, this generation today, we're in a different space where that people just are accepting anything as talent because it's other, as opposed to looking at the talent. Now the message is woke as opposed to the talent, you know. Is it woke? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So a lot of people are getting passes on mediocrity. Gay people and black people. But no, you have to be born with the talent. You have to be, it's a gift from God that drives you forward into the room and propels you into a space where that, and I can only, again, speak for me, where you do not take no for an answer, and this is going to happen my way.
Right. So Tarell, what about you? You know, being the only one in the room, how do you navigate that from a creative space, from an empowering space, from a survival space?
I think, well, first of all, I think, you know, white people have been allowed mediocrity for 400 years. And I think I'm all right with, you know, a little mediocrity here and there from us. We've had to be super and over talented in every way, shape, or form. And so, you know, I think I don't mind so much. I also am very much, you know, like Lee said, I make sure, you know, when I do say I'm blessed and lucky and fortunate and had people like Lee and like many people before me to make spaces for me and for the stories I want to tell. And in that way, I'm able to say, no, you can't fill my room with, you know, as many white executives as you want. I actually would like for you to fill it with, you know, it's almost as if, and it was so funny because my best friend and I were having this conversation. I wanted to work with some writers, some Black gay writers who, you know, we're around the same age, we respect each other's work. And when I said, hey, we all want to do a project together, people looked at me like I was crazy. Because you're just not allowed to put that many of the same thing in the room when it's Black, right? It's just, you can't put that, you're gonna put all of them in the same room, they're gonna let them do something? That's wild, right? But as Lee said, you sometimes just have to keep saying no until the room looks more and more like you, right? You keep saying no to all of the other reasons why you should, you know, go with this tried and true method that rather than the unpaved ground, right? The ground that's untrodden. And so I deal with it in that way. And unlikely, I'm not as brave all the time. You know, I do get scared. And I get scared because I want to make sure I'm protecting folk. You know, people are vicious. People are vicious and mean. And I don't want to bring anybody up and not be able to protect them. And so if you just look around and you're just bringing people to a place and they're not ready and not looking out for all the things that this, you know, very capitalist, very hungry industry can do, you sometimes watch a friend get really hurt by, you know, other stuff, right? And I think, you know, anything, Bell Hooks has a saying about anything that estranges us or alienates us one from another is it serves the interests of racism and discrimination. And I'm a protector in that way. So I try my best to make sure, hey, if I'm bringing you along, I want to make sure that, you know, we in this together and that I have enough energy and strength and focus that that I can make sure that we're all doing our best work here on sort of, as free as we can be. I was about to say free, but you know, in America, there's such a tax on that word now. We don't even know if we can use it anymore. Are we really free? But we're trying to get there. I'm trying to get free.
Tarell, that's why I love you, man. I mean, like the idea, it's a total generational thing, you know? Like I would have never thought to think of the mediocrity that white people have put out. Of course, it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. But we have been trained, brainwashed to believe that we have to be the best that we are in whatever it is. If they are good, we have to be even better. So already that comment right there shows the disconnect from, from my generation to your generation. And thank you for correcting me on that. No, it's good. It's good. It's part of. It's an evolution. I am learning so much from this change that's happening right now. Because I approached the rooms. I approached getting projects done in such a iconoclastic way. It just wasn't. It was by any means necessary. And so, and then when I was on, I had to make sure that once it was done, that it was perfect. So I won't be so hard, I guess, on some of the African American, some of the black stuff that I've seen. I'm hard on it. I'm hard on stuff anyway, but I'm extra hard on what it is that we have, and I shouldn't be. This is a wake up. Thank you for that.
No, I think, listen, I believe we must make space so that we can interrogate, we can critique, we can, but we need to do that together and have those conversations. That's how we grow. That's how cultures grow. By nothing gets a pass. Especially with us, we can go to the barbershop and he gonna have 5 or 6 variations on why, that film didn't work. Or it did work. I mean, I've had people sit me down and tell me, I ain't seen a play ever in their life. I was the first play they ever went to on Broadway. And then tell me like, well, in that third act, if you would have just did X, and, and that's okay. I think there's moments, but I think in terms of, or at least the way the question was placed to me, in terms of like trying to live up to whatever they need us to live up to, or trying to push something uphill. It's like, if they green lighting stuff that they don't know is mediocre, and there's a brother or a sister getting paid for it, I'm not about to block anybody's money. Like, it's too rough out here. Does that mean I don't want to help and encourage rigor and exploration of their best art and their best form? Of course, but that's for us. I want you to do your best, not because I want you to prove anything to them. I want you to do your best because it will help us look at ourselves and see who we are better.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned, Tarell, how gracious Lee was and how he really sat you down and talked to you. And so it's funny, Lee, to hear you
Lee
say.
doesn't sit anybody down to talk to them.
Okay. He just rolls up on you.
Lee gonna tell you Lee was like, come to set, and while I'm doing 70 different things, I'm gonna drop some gems on you. So that, I don't know if there was a sit down as opposed to, you see that? Don't do that shit. Moving on.
Right. I get those calls all the time. What were some of the things that Lee dropped on you and wisdom that he shared with you that helped you pave your way?
I just remember there was one thing that Lee said. There were many things that Lee said, but there was one thing that Lee says that I actually say to my students and to myself consistently, like a little mantra, which is that they don't know us better than we know us. Mm-hmm. Don't ever let them make you pretend or pay you enough money to get you to say that they actually know more about us than they do. You don't have no, just like I said about the nurse working 5 shifts knows more about Halle Berry's struggle in Monsters Ball than any executive does, and that she knows it. She knows what that struggle is. She knows what that, and so don't, trust that. You have to trust it. You have to trust that you know this life, this world, this, even if it's fantasy, even if it's sci-fi, from this perspective, you know it, and you hold the key to it. And it helps me because there have been many a moment where someone has asked me to explain my blackness or my queerness or my black queerness. And I've just been like, I'm good today. Like, I'm good on explaining it today. Like, you either get it or you don't, or don't pay for it. Don't green light it. but I'm not explaining it today. And I think, I definitely owe that to Lee. Like I hear him saying it in my mind when those moments happen.
Thanks, Tarell.
Yeah, it's interesting,
Yeah,
Lee.
thank you.
Right? We thank you, Lee, for sure. It's interesting, Lee, that you don't think that you are, that you're not kind of moving things forward in a radical way. I think that every story that you've told and every way that you fundraised and cast, you've always pushed outside of the box to create opportunities for other Black gay storytellers to come up, for someone like Tarell to be able to, win the Oscar for Moonlight, and for, Jordan E. Cooper to have an opportunity to do storytelling. Well,
it comes second nature, because the gift is not yours. God didn't give you the gift. The gift is that. So your gift is to make sure that it's passed on. And there was a time in Hollywood when I came to Hollywood where you had to be the only one. It was very competitive, and I was the only Black gay person that was out, at least that was out as a filmmaker. But there was major competition, and that crabs in the barrel thing amongst Black people. So and so you didn't really pass it on. It was all BS. You really didn't pass it on. But I knew instinctively, as a gay man, that I had to pass it on, because otherwise I would be the only one. And I needed that. I knew that there were people that were far more talented than me, that were out there, that I really wanted far more talented than me, that I wanted to hear their voices, and I wanted to see that direction, and I wanted to see their productions. And so if I didn't pass it on, I was missing out on the opportunity. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How do we?
So I don't really look at it. I don't really look at it as for me, it was survival. It is about, it's never been about the money, ever been about the money. It is about making sure that your work lives forever, and that I am affecting, in particular, young Black kids that are gay, in particular. That what message am I sending to them? That's what it's about. Even if the situations are provocative, or if it's a sexual situation, or if it's something that they should, what is it that will make these kids think that they also, wow, this is a world that I can see, that I know, that we don't see. What is Lee bringing to us that we don't see?
And Tarell, how do you?
And that's very scary. That's scary, Emil, to do that. Not to cut you off, but that's really scary. That is when you're in the middle of that, I am afraid. I'm not afraid of getting it, or I'm not afraid of. I am not afraid of getting the money or convincing somebody else to tell the story. But once you're in the middle of telling the story, I am terrified.
And are you terrified because you want it to be authentic, that you want it to be healing? I mean, what is
all of the above? That am I healing someone? It's as close to God as I get. When I'm in that space of creating. So I want to make sure that it is definitely affecting you. And if I'm in the face of God, I am happy and I am afraid.
And then that fear then drives the creativity as well.
Yes. Sorry, go back to Tarell.
No, this is a conversation. So there's no start and stop. Tarell, you talked about bringing, other Black talent along. How do you do that? How do you do that through your, production deals? How do you do that as you're navigating your own path in Hollywood?
There's no formula. I think I just look around and, every project that I'm working on, if, I try to make sure it's Black as, and that the people who are working on it are as Black as the story are. You know, I mean, you know, it's true. I just, you know, when I try to, and then sometimes I don't, you know, I don't get it, you know, 100%. Sometimes you know, the director might not be Black, or, you know, some of the cast might not be Black, or some of the grip or the DP. But I really do try and just go, oh, yo, you know, artist who's been working in Chicago and killing it for 20 years. You've never had a role like this here. Please take it. And, you know, and have to spend the kind of time and effort and, you know, making sure people understand why that this is such a pivotal point for this artist. But I just keep, you know, pulling where I can, and you know, and I do that pretty unapologetically. Now, like I said, I'm not perfect, and I definitely tire out. So sometimes I fail, sometimes I don't, you know, get it but I look to people like Lee, to like Ava, who figure out ways to go, oh no, you know, every director on this episode is going to be a Black woman, you know, or every DP or every camera person is going to be X. You know, I try to get that organizational voice. But as Lee said, sometimes when I get mired down in the writing of the thing, I just get so focused on making sure that the word is right that I look up and I go, damn it, I also need to pay attention to the 7 other things. But, you know, if you don't, for me, it's also, I need community for me personally. Like I need to be able to look around and go, ain't this bottom, to someone who understands that without having to explain it. So I just try to move with rather than solo. And you know, there's tempting moments all the time where people will go, come on through this door. And then you try to come in and all your people come with you and they're like, oh, not all y'all, just you. Right. And you kind of have to be like, oh, well, we can't all, I mean, I need them in order to sit down. Right. I need them in order to stay sane. I need them in order not to throttle you in 5 seconds, because they're going to keep me, you know, easy. And so, you know, you kind of have to move as one sometimes. And I know, you know, the saying is often like, oh, well, I'll get through the door and then I'll open something for you. And it's like, well, sometimes I just will stay outside until we all can get in. And I know people have been like, well, that's why you aren't, you know, a part of the Academy. That's why you aren't this and that. And I'm like, that's cool. That's fine. But I'll wait. I'd rather wait till we all can kind of walk on through, you know?
So you're not a part of the Academy, but you have won an Oscar for your writing for Moonlight.
This is so upsetting to even, we talked about this earlier, and it traumatized me. That little rehearsal we had, that conversation that we had earlier when I got that information, spun me out of control. And it's indicative of the space that we are in at the Academy. We're trying.
Well, again, I bring it up because that was a genuine conversation that happened. Someone literally said to me, well, you know, you need to fight. You need to fight for your positioning and your standing. And I was like, well, I'm sure there are other people who didn't get, you know, I'm sure there's a list of folks who didn't sort of walk through the threshold. And I'd rather fight, you know, for us than just like my spot, right? And what would it call, you know, and again, it's that thing about
begging. Let me just tell you, you will be into the Academy this year. My God, okay. So this is a wrap conversation. That's done. Speaking of, I'm going to talk about your work for a second. Wig Out. You do feel alone, you know. Emil, I don't know whether you saw the play. Did you see the play? Wig Out? Okay, so I always feel that I am alone. I felt that way until I saw this cat's work. You just feel like the specificity of that Black gay man's mind it's so specific. It's just so, the humor, the banter, the pacing, the everything. I sat there and watched that play. I don't know, where was it? The Public? Where was it at? I don't know where it was at, but it was
at the Vineyard.
Dude, let me tell you, I saw the birth of a soul, and I knew that I just, it was a given, and it made me feel so good that I wasn't alone. I felt alone. Well, George Wolfe's earlier works, The Colored Museum, I felt like, okay, he's out there, but George was out there, and then I saw this cat. I was like, oh man, you're not alone, and it's a really great feeling to not be alone. It's good. And I'm sure that Jordan Cooper is another. Julian Brees is another. It's what we have gone through. It's what we've experienced as Black gay men. It's very specific, the feeling. And when you are able to express that in any form, it's pretty breathtaking. It's pretty groundbreaking.
It's what we bring to the table.
Yup.
So how do we bring more people to the table? I mean, I understand what Tarell is saying about bringing people with him, but what's advice for young people who want to become filmmakers, who want to tell their stories, but don't know how to get there? What advice can we give them?
Wow. I mean, they are teaching me. I mean, the great news is that these young people are not waiting around for Tarell to tell them to do nothing. Right. Barry talks about this all the time with just their phones, even the ones that aren't the latest iPhone they can film quality film or digital film and stream it and get entertainment. I've seen 7 seconds of drama that has blown me away. And I go on these, you'll see me sometimes, I'll go on these little GoFundMes and they'll be like, GoFundMe, I'm doing a 20-minute short. And I'll be like, yo, 20-minute short is going to be amazing. Here's the $5 that I got for you to keep investing in doing it. And they've democratized film in a way that I know a lot of people are scared. I know a lot of gatekeepers are scared. And I think rather than run away from them, we have to embrace their voices. We have to embrace what they have to say and how they want to say it. They're showing us new ways. They're showing us new methods. And, I'm excited about it. I don't know that I have to tell them anything. I think the job is what Donny Hathaway said, teach them well and let them lead the way.
I love that. I just wonder with that though, if we have an old guard Hollywood, how do we get those young avant-garde radical filmmakers in front of these other places to get money, to get opportunities, to be able to be seen?
Well, again, Emil, it's not your gift. It's not your gift. It's your job. It's my duty to seek out these talents. Because only so many stories I have. There's only so many stories that I can even write or I can be, I can direct. There's only so many. But if you are seeking out, then you'll find. The internet is crazy. I agree, Tarell. I have cast more people. I have hired more people from Instagram and from Twitter. I would have never thought that is the way now to find talent. And they're unafraid. There aren't any rules. And you're drawn in like, what the hell? Who thinks of this? It's good. It's good.
Do you feel like marketers
but to your question, Emil, about the old guard, I don't know. Again, we spend so much time. I did this play called Joan Jett Black for Miss Black for President in Chicago, which is based on the life of Terrence Allen Smith, who was Joan Jett Black, who got on the floor of the 1992 DNC in drag to run again, to launch a campaign from Queer Nation for President of the United States. As far as we know, the first Black drag queen to run for President of the United States. I was shocked that didn't know anything about this story. Found it, did this play about it. Found Terrence Allen Smith living in San Francisco, and was just, again, shocked at what, the history that is lost. I mean, their whole platform was talking about, the AIDS epidemic at the time that was being largely quelled and or quieted by the government. Not unlike what's happening today in terms of, COVID cases and who's bearing the brunt of it and whose communities are sort of really losing. Anyway, the two things that happened to me were, one, I was once again reminded of a generational loss that we are still suffering, grieving, trying to find healing from. There are so many between, just a little older than Lee. There's so many men in that generation who were lost to the AIDS epidemic, and that so much talent gone. And so the kind of, passing on that Lee talks about isn't there, one. And, right. But two, there is this moment where you have to stop, where I had to, not anybody else. It was a breakthrough moment. I'll speak from a place of I really had to stop trying to think about, well, how do I make this nice enough for the old guard to look at it? How do I really had to go, I want to spend the rest of my life aiming all of my energy and love and nurturing to people I actually love and care about. There was this woman, this activist who called herself a D-word activist. That's what she called herself. And she was like, I spent the first years of my life fighting for people fighting people who hated me to try to love me. And that doesn't really make sense after a while. You get to an age, I'm about to be 40, and I'm like, I don't want to spend the next 40 years of my life, 20 years of my life, aiming my energy at people who already hate me or don't care to love me. I want to aim my energy at people who do care and love me. I want to aim my energy at people I love and care, and I want to wrap my nurturing around them. So, I think that's a part of this awakening for me. When, we talk about woke. My wokeness has more to do with I want to love on people and I want to nurture on people. And even if we've talked shit about each other before, behind each other's back, that's cool. That's over there, right? Are you okay? Are you strong? Are you eating well? Are you seeking the help you need? Are your talents being given the space and means to do what they can do to add to the conversation? Or are you being quieted? Because sometimes we see our brothers and sisters in real pain and think because they're acting out in those ways that's who they are. And it really is that they're in pain. And we got to go over them and be like, yo, I see you in pain. May I be of help as much as I can be? Or do you just need me to get out of your way for a while? And that's cool too. But I don't know. I get tired of trying to aim my energy at, at white people who may not, if they don't choose to love us at this point, what am I going to do about that? Right? Even white gay people, we're always talking about the community. Well, there's a lot of white gay people who don't like black people. You want me to, I'm not finna go and beat nobody down because they're not checking for me. That's cool. Right. But where are those little black kids who are growing up learning that it's okay to hate themselves? How do I get to them? Mm-hmm. That's way more important to me.
Yeah, and I feel like you have done an extraordinary job of doing that with Moonlight, with David Makes Man, of, telling stories of people that could have been just forgotten and lost, but actually had something in their spirit that they wanted to push forward. And I think those are the important stories that we need to tell right now. Is what are the stories that have not been told? Who are the young people that are growing up against crazy odds, and how do we amplify their stories and change the narrative?
Faces, giving a face to people that aren't seen and a voice to people that aren't heard. And sometimes, you got to be prepared to take the criticism for that. A lot of criticism for Monsters Ball, an incredible amount of criticism for Monsters Ball, an incredible amount of criticism for Precious. Why, Lee? Why do you have to show us in this light?
But that is our story.
Because, who else is going to if I don't?
So I'm going to bring Sean in because we're going to add him to ask a few more questions. and into the conversation.
Lee, Tarell, and Emil, wow. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for your honesty and for your transparency and for sharing your story. I mean, listening to everything that you said, I had two questions. One, with everything that you all have said, where do we go from here? Where do we as a community go from here, working more collaboratively together in this industry? And where can we go as filmmakers and as artists? Where do we go from here with everything you guys mentioned?
Right here is a great start. Where we are right now in this space, the fact that we're able to have this conversation, and a candid conversation as gay men, all of us, as Black gay men, all of us, I don't know that this would have been heard of through the Academy. So Sean, thank you for putting this together, because where do we go from here? We go with people that are thinking like you, forward thinkers like you, that are going to be able to even give me the courage to come out and talk about these things for the world to see. And these are private thoughts that I have been holding on to. I'm sure Tarell has been holding on to too. But the truth will set you free.
Emil, where do you feel as though, with your extensive experience in media and understanding that media is a tool, where do you believe we can go from here?
Well, I have to echo Lee's thoughts. I mean, having these conversations, this is where we start. To have a conversation with four Black gay men about these topics and these issues and these real things that affect our lives, I think that is where we begin. And I am so inspired by both Lee and Tarell and the work that you've done, because you have just pushed away the old guard and what we would think Black gay men look like or how they're depicted, and you're showing real humanity and real stories. And I think that's the beginning, and that's where we need to go, and we need to tap in and let all these young people have the opportunity to tell their stories.
I love that. And Tarell, where do we go from here, Tarell?
You know, look, I think the sky's the limit in terms of where we can go. I think we, I hope we go a little inside for a little bit, meaning I hope we do a whole bunch of healing, a whole bunch of just introspection, a whole bunch of uplifting inside. And I know that may sound a little kumbaya, a little hold hands and jump together. But I really, I thrive on community. And I know for our young people, for our young LGBTQ folks who are Black to survive, they need community, they need elders, they need to know the function of them, but they also need to know that there's space, and there's a space in there of love for them. And that's the way we get great art. That's the way we get the most compelling stuff. I mean, sometimes, yes, you get it by, by pressuring somebody to do, take the by no any means necessary route, right? And you get good art that way too. But also, what could we get if imagine right now, all the young artists who are queer and Black got and felt protected enough and safe enough to imagine, without thinking about race, without thinking about sexuality, but just imagine, period. If their brain isn't thinking about survival, what else could they be thinking about? What dreams may come if they had the ability to stop thinking about their own untimely death every third thought? And that's what I want for them. I want that for them.
Thank you. And the last question is, you all are very magical, each one of you. Tell me a time when you started to realize your magic. And Emil, we can start with you. When did you realize your magic? When did you realize that all of the things that are you are adding value to you and everyone else around you?
I think for me, a lot of the time that I spent at Vibe magazine really gave me the opportunity to understand that I could create space for voices that weren't going to be heard, for stories that were unheard of, and also to present imagery of Black people like rock stars, like the way that we really see ourselves, but the world doesn't see us like that. I think that was the first time. And then every day with the work with Native Son, I'm inspired. I mean, to be able to see this come to life and this conversation, and to sit with Lee and Tarell and yourself, I think this is beyond us. And I think about what Lee said, when it's a God moment, right? It's a community moment. And it is about kind of creating these spaces and these conversations.
Thank you. And then Tarell, what about you? When did you start to realize your magic?
Well, it was a little bit of rough magic, or or practical magic, because one time I just thought, my mother had me when she was 16 years old, and I think I was about 12 or 13, but I just kept trying to imagine her life if she didn't have a kid at 16 or 17, like what her life would have been like. She was really smart, really beautiful, and charming, had all those things that a model could have. She was 6 feet tall, she was slender, and I was just like, well, your life would have been great if you just didn't have a kid. Like and she slapped me. She, as we say in Liberty City, she spat fire at my face. And she was like, if I didn't want you, I wouldn't have had you. And it just made me think, and that I mean, I know it sounds weird, but in that moment I was like, oh no, there was purpose. She had me on purpose. I am here for a purpose, right? Like this wasn't an accidental sort of slip up. She was like, no, you were brought here on purpose. And I remember from that day on, I just sort of walked around going, oh no, I'm here for something. There's something here I'm called to do. And it shifted my view of things radically. Even in my most depressing moments, I can still kind of feel that slap. And remember that, no, I'm here for something. I'm here for a reason.
Wow, Tarell. My mom had me when she was 18. Wow. For me, it was the I think the first couple of episodes on Empire. In trying to find your voice, you don't know. You know you're an artist, but you don't really know what your worth is, and it was also, I don't know. Let me just find myself. What is I want to express myself, and. But that's a sissy thing to do. That's not work. Is that work? Is that real work, And so, my brother was in jail during Empire. And he's 3 years younger than me. And he was embarrassed about who it was that I was. And so when you live with that embarrassment from your brother and your father, you really think that it affects you deeply. It affects you, you are alone. And 3 episodes, we didn't talk. We still don't really talk, but 3 episodes in, and the numbers were just going through the roof, and people couldn't understand why people were watching this. I got a letter from him. From jail, and he apologizing, and I broke down. I think it was the biggest award that I've ever gotten was from him, and he said that when Empire was on, the entire prison shut down. You could hear a pin drop. 3,000 men were glued to that television, and I wept when I got that letter. I wept. I didn't return it. I wanted to write him back, but I didn't know how to write him back because so much had gone. We had gone through so much by then. We were in our 50s, and but I knew that I had a voice, and that everything that had put me through, everything that I had been through, that I was communicating to 3,000 men up in that prison, and they were focused on my word. And that's a powerful thing. I said, oh my God, I got a little magic in me, you know?
I think it's more than a little magic in the three of you on this call. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the Academy and the members and everyone who's going to be tuning in and participating, thank you so much for lending your light, your transparency, for sharing your stories. Emil Wilbekin, thank you so much for moderating this conversation. Lee Daniels, as always, thank you so much for showing up and being your true self. Tarell Alvin McCraney, thank you all so much for participating in Academy Dialogues.
Thank you.
Thank you.